Aloha, everybody. Welcome. My name is Shelby Morrison, and I am the Programs and Communications Coordinator at Ikahi Mediation Center. Welcome to our Finding Solutions Growing Peace Brown Bag Lunch Series. Kuikahi is a nonprofit community mediation center serving East Hawaii. We were founded in 1983 as a program of the Island of Hawaii's YMCA, and in 2006, we became our own independent nonprofit. We empower people to come together, to talk and to listen, to explore options, and to find their own best solutions. To achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and trainings just like this one to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. Our Brown Bag Lunch series is held every third Thursday at 12 noon here on Zoom, and you have to register on Eventbrite for each time to get that Zoom link. Our next Brown Bag Talk will be January 15th, and our speaker is John Henricks, and his talk is titled Robert Rules, Your Procedural Pathway to Better Board Meetings. And you can register for that on Eventbrite. Link is in the chat. In addition, our conflict prevention and resolution training series will be having another session on January 8th with Ami Kunimura with her workshop, Resilience at Work, Self-Care for Stress Management and Burnout Prevention. The investment is $50 with group discounts and needs-based scholarships available. It will be held at the University of Hilo, room UCB 127 from 8:30 to 12:30. And you can register at the link. Again, this will be added to the chat. Our next basic mediation training series starts on March 13th. This 4-day training is how our professionally trained volunteer mediators get their start. These fabulous folks donate their time to help community members communicate, negotiate, and resolve disputes. We're always looking for additional community members to learn conflict prevention and resolution skills. Then, if that's you, consider joining our Mediator Apprentice program. More details can be found on our website, and that link will be also in the chat for you. At the end of today's talk, we'll ask you to fill out a short online survey, which helps with our grant funding for this free series. So when I put that survey link in the chat at the end of the talk, please just take a moment to give us your thoughts. I'll also be sending out an email a little bit later this week with the slides, the video link, and the survey link. So without further ado, let me introduce our topic, Go from Powerless to Powerful in 5 Steps. And our speaker is Miss Colonel Debra Lewis. She knows what it takes to lead with strength and heart when the stakes are highest. A graduate of West Point's historic First Class with Women, she led a $2.1 billion billion-dollar engineer command in combat. Her stress intelligence approach proves that compassion and connection create smarter strategies and lasting success. Today, her courses inspire thousands to turn adversity into opportunity and make a positive difference in our world. Take it away, Colonel Deb.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for being here. I have to thank you, Shelby, for starting this and making this happen today, and Julie Mitchell, who's been the power behind Kuakai Mediation. I want to also share my husband's on here. I wasn't sure if he was going to watch today, but he will make sure that anything that I say is appropriate. At least tell me later. And I thought I won't be able to talk about all of you, but I could. And but I do want to talk about one dear friend who I know is on here. He's going to have to leave a little bit early. He's what he calls Doug number 2. Doug Krug is online today, and I want to do a shout out to him. And I hope that each of you will understand what I'm about to say next. Doug suffered a stroke not long ago. When I met him in the 90s, he inspired me with a book called Enlightened Leadership and helped me frame some of the things that I was learning was working, even though it was against the common practice in leadership. And if you want to talk about compassion and understanding how to ask the right questions, Doug Krug is your guy. He's written many books since. And the most recent is about unlearning those things that we have learned that aren't helpful to us. And what I'm about to talk to today is kind of playing off of that. But I thought each of you in the chat, if you wouldn't mind giving Doug a bit of support, since his stroke, he has been working tirelessly to get back on his feet so he can at least get to the refrigerator and get an ice cream all by himself and move out of rehab because that's the rule. So please give a little love to my dear friend Doug Krug. And do that if you would in the chats. Everybody save your chat. I hope that you'll do that. Thank you. See all that love, Doug? That's to inspire him to keep going. Okay, so
Good.
today, what I'm
Thank
going to
you.
do is I'm going to share my screen and start the slide presentation. Here we go. Get it opened up. There we go. So you saw the announcement for the Brown Bag Lunch series. And basically, the introduction, what Shelby gave you, is what drives me. And you wonder, some of you don't know me, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of these experiences of how do I know these things and why am I so determined to share what I've learned the hard way? That's one reason, is I don't want you to have to learn everything the hard way. It seems that unless the hard way happens, we don't seem to stick with the things that are important. But the picture to the right is a classic example. You heard I went off to West Point in the first class with women. Doug was there too, my husband, and I didn't know him. I didn't meet him till, in fact, 17 years after I graduated. But that first day, Doug had grown up with sisters. I had grown up with brothers, and they helped train me well. My father was in the military, and while I knew West Point was going to be hard, I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. We think we do at that age when we graduate from high school, but I didn't. And this scene that you're looking at in this picture on the right is me getting fitted with my first pair of trousers that the men had had. Well, I don't know exact that pair, but 174 years of tradition, and we were breaking tradition. And so these poor tailors from Italy were trying to figure out how to make them fit. And they were kept telling me as I was standing there, they fit a fine, they fit a fine, they really do. And you can see my look of skepticism as I'm standing there looking down, and you can see the length of my trousers. You can see the buckle in my trousers, you know, how they don't fall straight, which is military terms, they must. And so that was quite an emotional event, but I had no idea what was coming ahead. Isn't that true with life? What's going to happen ahead? Well, that very first day, once we got fitted, little did I know something had changed. And that one thing that had changed was going to affect my day. I hope the airplane can't be heard, but there's an airplane going ahead, of course. And what happened that day is I didn't know they had substituted the steel zippers in our trousers for the women with beautiful color coordinated plastic ones. What do you think wool did when met with such a fragile kind of zipper? Well, of course, over 50% of our zippers broke. 119 women joined an academy of about 4,400 cadets. All eyes were on us, especially that first day, and our zippers were breaking, which meant we, right at the start, were going to be trouble. We were trouble. So I am trouble. I will caveat that I am trouble, and I was trouble that day because my squad leader, I had to deviate from the standard questions. We were allowed to say yes sir, no sir, no excuse sir, and sir, I do not understand. Nowhere in there was, sir, do you have a safety pin to hold up my pants so when we swear an oath to the Constitution, my pants won't fall down in the upcoming parade? And needless to say, Cadet Greenhouse, who was, I remember, my cadet squad leader, he was not as helpful as he might be. So that was my first day. And from that point on, my career took off. Not exactly in the direction. It's like when you see those fireworks heading off in the wrong direction, right? They're supposed to go up, but they're going off in all these other directions. That's kind of what it was like. And I had many trials that taught me things that have stuck with me since, because what I learned is it helped me take myself from feeling utterly powerless in a system that was designed to break me and help me feel powerful and really in that way making an impact. Because I know many of you on here are there to make an impact. And if you want to make an impact, it's going to take mental toughness because I know you've been yelled at. I know you've been questioned for whatever idea you had that was different than what was happening, but it was to correct something that you felt needed to go on a better path. Well, that explains me in a nutshell because I was always asking questions and people wanted to stamp me out because I asked the hard questions and trying to change things. And so if you're interested, I'm here to share really what I found as the one area that if you could master this, you had a chance. I'm not saying I could talk about every slide here all day, but what I learned is there's just some basics that if we don't get this right, and we aren't taught this at home or at school, then we must figure out a way to get this out to others so that they not just handle adversity, but they make better choices under adversity. And we keep that heart. You know, when people said love is the answer, did anyone ever tell you that you needed to be able to withstand the attacks that happen because you want to love and support others? I don't think so. I wasn't told that. And so,
Darling, you
yeah,
still have the title slide up.
right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm heading to the next one. Right now, what I want you to do is this talk isn't about me. It's really about helping you. So what I'd like you to do is to go to a quick breakout. It's going to be 5 minutes. I'd like you to, if you can, open up your pictures. I want you to answer this question after you've picked an area of your life where you feel most stressed, stuck, or drained right now. Because this talk won't be relevant to you unless you really get clarity on what it is that one area of your life you could apply this to and practice once we're done here today. And think about and share what would change for you if you didn't have to feel that way. And so without further ado, Shelby has put it in the chat as well, so you know this. But I think you can probably pick one area that frustrates you right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's pick an area that frustrates you. And I want you to know, to think about what would change if that went away, if you didn't have to feel that way. All right, Shelby, let her go. I guess we didn't say if you're in a group, do it separately with the group, but have one person on your screen when you're doing it. Okay. Deanne and Ramona, they're still in the main screen. Do they have to click on something?
No, it just hasn't assigned them yet, but I'm going to do that now.
Okay. Be patient. We'll get you in there.
Thanks for allowing breakout sessions. They're the best.
Thank you for participating. They can be pretty awesome.
Oh, okay. What happened?
Deb, you're muted.
We knew this was a risk in coming together and doing a quick breakout, but I hope that you will think about that one scenario is picking an area of your life where you feel the most stressed or drained right now or stuck. And it could be money, it could be relationships, it could be a whole lot of things. But what would change for you if you didn't have to feel that way? And when you answer that question to yourself, I'd love you to really take that and make it so clear that you can feel it, you can see it, you can realize it, even if it's in your dreams right now, but that you can do that. And I, from my background, I have been negative net worth when I should have been worth a lot. But going through two divorces, that's what caused it. And I have to say, it wasn't just the mental abuse, but it was so many other things that when you feel at your bottom and just like you can't dig yourself out of a hole, and I've been there, and I've had inspiration from a coin that helped me stand up again. And I also had a daughter that I had to think about. But the way ahead is something that I want you to focus on. What would it change if I didn't have to feel that way? And I opened myself to a third marriage. And my Doug is here, and he never knows if I'm going to talk about us. But we have been married more than 26 years now. And it hasn't necessarily been easy, as Doug number two will tell you. My life is not necessarily easy, but when you have someone, anyone in your life that at least can help pick you back up or help you refocus, that's what I want to talk about today. Going to that powerful place where we know inside of us that we've had it all along, but we just can't see a way ahead. And so if you're ready, I'm ready to go to the next slide. Let's see.
Feel free to reshare, Deb.
Okay, this was reshare. Here was the slide that we were just working on. But this is something, if you cannot, a dream can only come true if you can realize what that dream is going to look like. And I know I did think about it. At times I lost hope that it was going to happen. But if you don't have clarity of the dream of what you want to achieve, you will never get there. I do know that. And if you haven't learned the lesson that you needed to learn, because I'm sure there's an important life lesson, even if it's only to appreciate what you have now than what you used to have, then you will be doomed to repeat that. That's been my experience. So let's go to a quick reminder. I want you to remember that you are a miracle. Each of us, no reason that in the billions of years that the world has been around in the universe, we should even exist, let alone have come from a long line of 90% don't even continue to have families. They don't they don't become a descendant because they didn't procreate. But we are a miracle standing here, and the miracle that it's wrapped in is each of us has a mind, we have a body, and we have emotions, and we have spirit. And when we look at that, when we truly realize that this is something that we can harness. I have pictures of horses. Now, not all of you love horses. I understand that. But Rosalie does. I know Rosalie does. Um, but you can see on the left side, when we are youngest, somehow we have this greater connection with animals. That's my daughter up above and another picture that I grabbed off the internet down below. But you can see the expression of the animals. The animals get it sometimes far more than we do. And our ability is not to crush or dominate, but to connect, to work with. And on the right is once you connect and you bring your mind, your body, emotions, and spirit into a harmony, you really have the power to do anything. And when it comes to horseback riding, you're allowed to soar, you're allowed to jump, you're allowed to do things. Now, the top right is my daughter jumping her horse. And the bottom one is actually me riding in a competition with a horse that I had never trained with. It was one of those you draw a horse out of a hat and you get on it and in this case it was a cross country course, which for anyone who rides knows how difficult that can be. But yet we did it. And we had the trust with each other and we connected and made it happen. So this is something every day we have to be grateful. And if you can do it in the morning and do it at night, to think about what you're grateful for, to have this breath that we often don't have control over, but I'm going to talk about that, but also just existing. So I hope that this is a great reminder to you, and I want you to see that what I'm asking you to do today is not to dominate it or crush those things that you don't like about yourself or try to avoid it because as Doug Krug will tell you, avoiding doesn't work. And you can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you have your dream really clear, then you're going to get it. And the other thing is that Doug Krug taught me was avoiding, the words like can't, never, shouldn't, wouldn't, don't. Our mind and neuroscience will tell us our mind doesn't recognize them. And that's why you will see a child like, don't touch that, and they will touch it. That's why an adult, as you say, you can't do that, it fires them up to want to do it. Maybe that explains some of your actions. But let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So if we have the 5 steps, what's the first one? What's the one that I have found is so important that if you forget this one, really the rest don't matter. But it's the flow. It's the flow in our lives. And I focus on breathing with intention because that's one way that we really get stopped up. Now, in the pictures below, you can see a waterfall. It's actually the same waterfall. And those who live in Hilo, lovely Hilo, we can see sometimes it's a trickle and sometimes it's this force to be reckoned with, that it can be crushing in its power. Each of us have that. Some days we may feel small, even sometimes insignificant. But when we call forth that power and the conditions are right, we have enormous power. The 2 pictures on the right bottom will remind you of the times we get frustrated. I made a whole list of things that are my triggers. You see, know your triggers. I can tell you a whole bunch of triggers. Financing, bills specifically, having to ask for help, um, training for a race, and or training for a presentation like this, even though I'm excited to do it, oh my gosh, when it comes to the time, how well are we going to do? How well are, we want to win the race, but what happens when we crash and burn and fall? Our health. In a moment, our health can stop us. And that can be crazy, crazy scary. Our relationships. I know that one negative person in a room, I can sense them out. And I have to work incredibly hard that their energy, that my mirror neurons don't work to reflect that within me. But it can if I don't have the tools. But flow, the thing I want you to focus on, our bridge between chaos and calm, is truly our breath. When our breath is not in control, it really affects us in so many ways. So, what I'd like us to do at this moment, there are probably a million breathing techniques. There's a really short one that the Hawaiian that we learned in our church, and it's just a quick one where you breathe in and you breathe out, and it's called Honu. When you breathe in, and I would ask you to do with your nose for a very specific reason, and breathe out through your mouth. That's one you can do very quickly, and we do it once, twice, three times before we go into something. But the one I want to teach you today, which is just a little bit longer, in 10 seconds, if you want to reset your body, much like when our phones go crazy, sometimes someone says, "Did you turn it off and turn it on again?" And you're like, "Oh, no, I haven't done that yet." Okay, well, I'm going to turn it off and turn it on. This is something you can do in 10 seconds to reset your body when you are stressing out. And I call it the waterfall method. So you see the waterfall? I want you to focus on breathing in through your nose because this is a wonderful device that helps oxygenate our brains, and they're learning more and more about it all the time. In fact, I just read a data that said if you breathe in through your mouth as a elite athlete, it can actually damage your body. I don't do the studies. I just listen to them. But breathing in through your nose is vitally important to oxygenate your brain. I'm going to ask you to do it for 3 seconds in through your nose and 7 seconds out with your mouth. And what I want you to focus on is the waterfall method. It's bringing air in to cleanse you, much like a waterfall can do. It can cleanse the inside of you, but it's a waterfall of air. It's going to come in and you have to pace yourself, and then you breathe out. And there's a lot of toxic energy and goo that's inside of each of us. And what I want you to do is imagine blowing it out with the hot air that comes out of your mouth. And if you're ready, I want you to try it once. Please indulge me on this because I know this is the one technique that in all of my thousands of talks and meetings with people, it sticks with them the most, is how to reset your body. And the reason I know it works is I used it in the Pentagon. I used it in the Pentagon when I was getting ready to give a briefing to to 4-star admirals, and I had to present when I was handed only 40% of the information I was meant to be given. I didn't realize that they had had a transition of people in the entire office, and they weren't given information to pass it to me so I could go in and give my talk. And I started, have you ever hyperventilated? I started to hyperventilate, and I wondered, could I actually do this? And I ordered, now you may not be able to do this, but I ordered myself to breathe. First, you need to breathe because when stress happens, the first thing that stops is your breathing. It interrupts it. Even a negative email can interrupt your breathing. You've probably had that happen. But in this case, I had to work through it, and I was able to get control of my breathing, and I was able to walk in there and give a presentation that to everybody else was great. I survived. I didn't get skewered as I was thinking before I got into that meeting. Because why? Not because I had more information, but because I had control and calm of myself, and I did my best. And that was all that anyone could ask. And so right now, we're going to practice it 3 seconds in through the nose, imagining that clean, clear air that is going to clear you of that toxic thinking and toxic actions that others have done to you. And you're going to clear that out when you breathe out 7 seconds. And I warn you, you have to pace yourself for the breathing out. And I'm going to do it once. Are we ready? Shelby, are you ready? I see you there. Are you ready? Okay.
Ready.
I'm going to count. I can't do the breathing and count at the same time. So you'll have to breathe in and exaggerate for me as you do it. Breathe in through your nose. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? How is that for you? Put it in the chat, Shelby. What are they saying? How is that for you? Could you tell a difference in your body? You realize that your breath can control that cortisol that's maybe firing up in your body because you're stressed about something. And if you can control your breathing, you can control the toxic impacts of the negative stress that is taking over your body. Now, I recommend you keep practicing this until you feel you have control of it. I wonder, did anybody run out of air in the 7 counts? Did anybody raise a hand? Raise your hand if you've run out of air. Did anyone run out of air?
We have one who did.
Okay. And like I said, when you get really good at this, I could be driving to a meeting that I'm late to, and I could be thinking about all the awful things that are going to happen to me because I'm not there on time, especially if you're leading the meeting. Or I can reset my body, get very calm, very collected, drive safely, get there, and be able to operate in a way that is perfect timing, not poor timing. Every time I control it, it becomes perfect timing. Things happen in that sequence that I could never have predicted, but it's always perfect for me. And so I ask you to think about that as you go through your day and go through that. But flow, that's step number 1. If you don't control your breathing, the rest won't matter. Okay, ready for step number 2? Would you like to know the second thing that I found was so important, especially when you're stressing out and you feel out of control? Fuel. The second, I have 5 F's. The second one is fuel. Nourishing your body and mind. Now, hopefully, if you can't see this image in front of you, it looks like a very, very tired, sick plant on the first 2 pictures. This plant is a impatient, New Guinea impatiens. If anyone's ever had this plant before, confess on the internet. Those of us in Hilo would think this plant would thrive here. Why? Because it's just like a human. You know, a human has 70% water, I think. We're 70% water. Certain parts of our body are 99% water. New Guinea impatiens need a lot of water. And what I found out, I thought sometimes plants don't want, they suffer similarly if they get too much water, right? If you get too much of a good thing. Now, I mistook this one because when I saw it 4 days after I bought it, and we were having an event at our house, it was our house blessing, and I thought I'd killed yet another plant because I took a look at it 4 days after buying it and thinking, oh my God, I've overwatered it. I have killed this plant. And luckily we had a new landscaper, Casey, who looked at me and he goes, I don't think so. I think it needs water. And I said, no, no, it's been raining. It doesn't need any water. He said, put your thumb in it. So you need to have a test. I put my thumb in it and the dirt was hard as a rock. Okay, I couldn't believe it, but it was hard as a rock. Okay, and so I said, oh, okay. And so when I told my husband I had killed another plant, he proceeded to go where? He went to the hose and he brought the hose over and he watered this plant. Actually, we had 2, one on either side. And that's a picture of each of those. And what he did I just said, well, it's a lost cause. I don't know how many plants I've killed, but I've killed many. I'm sorry, I have a black thumb. I try, but it just I don't have the secret. And an hour later, I was in his office and I looked outside and I saw the plant on your right. Okay, it was the same plant. It was, oh my gosh, what do you notice? It's perky, right? It came back. It came back from the dead, I thought. And I thought, oh my gosh, all it needed was some water. Now, how many of you, put a one in the chat, how many of you have been told you need to drink more water? Okay, how many of you have been told? Okay, my husband used to put signs on my computer. Doug used to put signs on my computer to drink more water. I'll tell you a tip that I use. But the thing is imagine your body. Imagine that this is the inside of your body. And if you don't properly nourish it with food, with adequate water, with, I don't know if supplements are going to be needed, but definitely sleep. If you're not nourishing your body, guess what's going on behind the scenes? This. This is going on. And it's probably giving you some symptoms. And sometimes we don't find out till too late when it just takes us over. We just had one of our key leaders in our community, 45, who passed away. Um, and I've heard about younger people. I even went to a massage. Ever had a massage of your neck at one of the airports? I went in and they asked me, do you know what beef jerky looks like? And they said, that's your neck. I said, what? And they said, that's your neck. And still it didn't prompt me to drink more water until this plant. This is my aha moment that said, oh, that's what's going on. And so my tip, you can't run on empty. You just can't run on empty and expect to be at your best. You just can't. Um, you just can't. And so my tip, and I'm just going to say it, maybe you have a sip of, you have water there. I have water there. Would you like to take a sip with me? Under stress, your body is draining you of water. Okay? It's draining you of water. And so water is the first one, just like breathing is the first one in any situation. For fuel, water is necessary along with oxygen. Oxygen there. Thank you, Darlene. I saw Darlene went and got one, went and got her water. But I have trouble with my eyes. I know it's 99% water. Therefore, my tip that taught me is before I go to bed. Now, I know it's inconvenient, but before I go to bed, I drink a full mug of water. And when I get up in the morning, I drink it again. I at least have primed my body before I go to sleep, and I have primed it so that my dreams, when they're wild and very active, that I'm, running or doing whatever, that or going through corridors that you can't find the opening, those kind of dreams, that at least I'm hydrated for that endurance. And in the morning, I'm ready for the new day. I'm ready for the new day. And then every time I eliminate, I drink water. I have a glass of water in my bathroom or where I'm going, and I make sure that I rehydrate what has left me. It doesn't mean you drink tons of water, gallons of water. That can harm you, but you want to fuel yourself. Okay, I'm going to leave this one. If you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Shelby will be monitoring, but let's go on to the next one because these are things you know, but maybe you're not doing like I was. Number 3. This is one that I was told over and over. Women are too emotional. And sorry, women, we often are told we're too emotional. We are too this, we are too that. All these reasons we can't do things. At West Point, I was told you shouldn't be in the Army. You cannot go to combat. You can't handle the physical aspects, whatever. you know, and it triggers emotions when you hear people being very negative, right? It triggers emotions. Now, some people can say that, well, if you live with joy your life, you aren't living in the real world. Oh, I live in the real world. I just choose to try to change the emotion, even when it comes at me with full force. Disappointment, all these things, guilt. Here's a data point. Claire Zammit found this research on women and men. If something doesn't go according to plan, what percent of men go to shame in that situation as a reason that it's something they did wrong? Yeah. Men go to shame about 15%, maybe 10. Okay? They do it sometimes, but not often, not the majority. What is that statistic for women? If something doesn't go to plan, then what percent go to shame? What the research tells us right now is women go to shame 85% of the time, 85% of the time, as a reason why something didn't go according to plan. Now, there was a study done, and you can look that up, about vibration. If you look at this scale of vibration, where does shame fall? At the bottom. That's right. The lowest vibration is shame. If we live in shame, it's like being thrown into a hole and we cannot get out. And so our emotions are important to recognize when we're heading in that direction. Because if you're riding a horse and a horse starts to buck and its head will normally go down first, you need to pull that head up. I mean, you need to pull the head up. Because if you allow it to stay down there, then that buck will throw you 20 feet. I don't know if Rosalie's been thrown that way, but I've been thrown that way. Okay? They will buck and they will throw you. Your body and your situation will throw you down. That's where shame is. Guilt is very close to that, you can see. But what's up top? Do you see what's up top? Enlightenment. You chose today to learn maybe one thing from today that you're going to remember. That's enlightenment. You're at a vibration when you're learning and sharing that's incredibly high. It's the highest that we can achieve to. And what I've been told by people like Mary Morrissey and others, that you need to be at 500 and above in order to get more of what you want. If you want to have things attracted to you, the law of attraction is a secondary law. The law of vibration is a primary law. And so emotions tell us something. I'm not telling you to not feel these other things. I'm telling you to be aware that when you feel these things, you need to examine that and see what it's offering to you, what an important insight is. If you're in a terrible marriage, as I was the first two, it's terrible. I could focus on that, the guilt of how come I didn't see it? What didn't I do? But that wasn't getting me anywhere. That wasn't getting me anywhere. And this is deeply personal. I have to say, it's deeply personal. Anyone who's a parent knows what it's like when you can't control them. In fact, you can trigger them just by something you might say. But you have an emotion because everything isn't all like father knows best or mother knows best, right? So these emotions offer important insights. So you want to choose wisely what you're going to do with them and how to get back. Sometimes, like me, I had to get back on the horse, how to get back on it, and so that you can manage that. And so know your triggers so that you can remember what that emotion is, but also know where do you want to be? You want to be in the higher level. So that's the feeling. I will never tell you, don't be angry. That's silly. You're going to feel angry. And if I tell you don't, remember what Doug Krug said, the mind doesn't recognize don't, you're going to stay there. You're going to stay stuck there like glue or Gorilla Glue, which is what I had to use today. Okay? All right, so know your triggers. So that's feel. So we've gone through, what is it? Flow, fuel, feel. What's the next step? What could possibly help you now? Now you're a jumble of emotions and you're going to try to focus on the ones that you want, not the ones you don't want. Okay? Focus. Now what you see here are two pictures. One is of a light bulb on the left-hand side, and I will tell you that think of yourself as energy. Our energy can be like a light bulb in a darkened room where it can light a 60-watt light bulb can make sure you don't hurt yourself. You can see the chairs are obstacles in a room if it's a blackout room. And a light bulb can be very helpful to illuminate like a general knowledge, like what I'm giving you right now. And then you can take that and focus that same energy into a laser. And on the right-hand side, you see a picture of a laser cutting metal because that's what the power of a 60-watt light bulb can do. So it doesn't seem like much, but when it's focused into what you want, you can turn that effort into impact. Okay, that's what it can do for you. You have to know your triggers because I can see you. Some of you may have a trigger and it may be a negative one, and you want to laser focus on someone and cut through them, but it can't be used for toxicity. It can't be used for negative impact. You want that focus to get you where you want to be, get you to helping others to do that. Okay, that's focus. I hope there are no questions on that, but if there are, please put them in the chat. All right, what's step number 5? We've gone through flow. What's the next one? Fuel. What's the next one? What's the next one? Feel. Emotions. What's the next one? Focus. Now we've got the 5th one. Fire. This is talking about your spirit. Now, I think Debbie's still on here. We just had a event where it was celebrating 75 years of a group I belong to, Zanta, and it was a sock hop. It was celebrating the 50s, and we had the best tunes playing from the 50s and the 60s. And dancing is something, anybody else here, put a 1 in the box if you like to dance. If dance or let's just say music. If music is one of those things that can take you from that maybe a negative place and just light you up. I know Doug Krug handled music early in his life. He loves music. So when you have that, when you have things in your life, it's to me it's like when I ride a horse and I can do a course and I've jumped that course, haven't knocked anything over, haven't had to fight with the horse. I'm just riding that course and I make it to the end. And in riding in a competition, you get a blue ribbon if you do it really, really well. And I've gotten a few of those. All right. But it's when you set your spirit free and you're connected in a way that isn't necessarily by plan. Sometimes our plans are kind of a guiding post. It's not a final destination. It's something that gets you going. And if you know why you made that plan, then you'll be able to adjust when things around you open up as opportunities. Some people call it changes and they deeply resent a change that happens. Oh, we don't have any of this. Maybe you've even gotten angry when plans change. I look at what's the possibility. And so the fire, when you keep that refueling yourself, you will be able to see those opportunities and go with the first one we had, flow. You'll be able to go with the flow. You'll be able to see what fuel is going to get you going. You'll be able to take each one of those steps and burn bright and give your best. How many have witnessed somebody coming into, could be a dance, but it could be a meeting, and their energy is just like they have none. They walk into the room and they're a sucking life force, and they take the spirit out of the room when you let them. right? It's not their fault. It's they've lost touch with what fires up within them. And this is what we want to help with. Okay? So figure out what it is that gets you going. A song might be able to turn your day around in 2 minutes. And that's what you want to figure out. I'm an engineer, so I'm always trying to engineer quick ways to do it. Not shortcuts necessarily, but quick ways to make things happen. All right, so what I'd like you to do now, we've gone through the 5 steps, and I want you to talk about, I want you to think about doing these really quick. I want you to take, let's do the first one. Step number 1. If you would please, take one deep intentional breath. Honu. Ha. Now I touch the waterfall method. That's like the highest, that's a much higher level of power. But just one breath. This is your reset. You're figuring out a way that resets you when your body wants to run out of control. Now, if you have water, let's fuel again. Let's take a sip of water. Let your shoulders drop. Imagine that flowing through your body. I have to confess, I took a bath today. I rarely do this, and not everybody has this luxury, but the water was up to my neck. That water around me was very soothing. You want to fuel your body. You want to fuel it in what will help you be at your best, plugging yourself back in. All right, feel. Name one feeling right now that you're aware of. No fixing, no judging, just notice. Notice what once one feeling. And if you would please put it in the chat. Please help me. Put it in the chat. What feeling are you feeling right now? Notice that. Don't judge it, just feel it. Okay? Now we'll go to focus. You had a breakout. Some of you were able to have a breakout to talk about something that's going on in your life that is harming you. I want you to bring to mind one goal, one situation or challenge that matters to you. Just one.
And Deb, we're about 3 minutes out, just so you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, we're almost done. That's your mind. You're aiming with a purpose. And the last one, fire. Now I want to picture your fire. I want you to picture the strength, purpose, or joy that's lighting your way forward. So we're coming to an end. I have just one more slide after this. I hope that you got a little bit of sense of what powerless to powerful looks like. There are 5 intentional shifts that anyone can use anytime. Notice that shift. Go from frazzled to calm. Go from tired to energized. Go from reactive to responsive. And so you see, this is my daughter riding by the ocean. I want you to realize that you don't have to fight this. It's not about fighting it. Because when you stop fighting it and you start understanding these simple steps, then you're going to rise stronger, brighter, and you're going to build your best life. And the truth is, you never were powerless. You simply forgot just how powerful you are. And I want you to jump. I want you to race. I want you to soar. So stop fighting and start soaring. Now, in the minute that we have, you may have some questions or things to ponder, but I just hope this time, if it has helped you, please share it with the people in your life who may need it. These seem like simple, obvious steps, but I will tell you in my experience, they are not under extreme stress. They are not. It's a powerful, powerful time that we're in now, which can disrupt every second of every day. And right now, we need to harness that power for good, to helping others, to bring out their best, and to lift each other up. And so I hope that today was able to do that for you. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to thank each of you for being a part of this with me today. This is something that I want to continue to share. I have on the last slide that you can find, you're going to get the PDF of this. It has my stress smarts with Colonel Deb. I talk about subjects like joy and other things that are in our life, backbiters, things that we deal with every day of our lives, and how you can quickly shift and stop from being powerless to be powerful. And like that cadet I was day one, who felt very powerless and very out of sorts, that I could go on and lead a $2.1 billion engineer construction program in the middle of combat, which was the severest at the time in that war, and feel like I was making a difference. So thank you. Is there anything else? I want I want to thank several. Darlene, you have been, I'm going to pick you because your smiling face has been so encouraging throughout this. I always loved, and I know many of you already. You're wonderful, doing great things, tough things in your lives, handling tough things. And I hope this gives you the tools that you need. Did you have anything else, Shelby, that you wanted to share?
No, I don't see any questions coming through the chat. So, mahalo, Deb, Colonel Deb. This was such a wonderful treat. And thank you all for coming today. So, as a reminder, please just take a few minutes to fill out our short survey online. The link is in the chat. This survey really helps with our grant funding for this free series. So,
Shelby, I'm not able to save the chat, so if you could, please do so.
Sure.
Thank you,
yes,
Karen.
So everyone will also get an email a little bit later, and that will have the slides for today's event, as well as the survey link and a video link to watch it if you'd like to rewatch on YouTube. So thank you everyone so much for coming, and we hope to see you next month.
Happy
Mahalo,
holiday.
everybody.
Aloha.